Starting in 1983, 11-year-old Jody Plauché began taking karate lessons with 25-year-old Jeffrey Doucette. For a year afterwards, Jody was sexually abused by Doucette, culminating in his kidnapping on February 14, 1984. Doucette took him to a hotel in Anaheim, California, where he continued to assault him until Doucette allowed Jody to use the phone to call his mother, allowing California police to locate and raid the motel, leading to Doucette's arrest on February 29th. The next day, Jody was returned to his family. Unlike many high-profile victims of kidnapping during the 80s, Jody survived and was returned to his family. But his safety did not erase the suffering he had faced, or alleviate the helplessness his father, Leon Gary Plauché, felt at having been unable to prevent it. After all, a parent's role is to protect their children. However, parents are people too, and not infallible. Even today, much abuse goes unacknowledged because it is difficult to recognize that often those who pose the most danger are those who you'd never guess were capable of such malice. And what of the guilt afterwards? For most, the complicated feelings that result after such practices come to light are difficult to deal with, not in the least because there are no easy solutions. When you are hungry, you eat. When you are thirsty, you drink. But what do you do when you're feeling helpless, guilty, and incensed with anger? If you're Leon Gary Plauché, you solve the problem at its source. On March 16, 1984, Doucette arrived at Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport around 9:30 a.m. He was led in handcuffs past a waiting crowd of news crews and passerby. Amongst them was a man waiting at a payphone, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, and holding a gun. As a news crew from the local station WBRZ waited to record Doucette's homecoming, Gary Plauché spoke to his best friend on the phone, waiting for Doucette to pass by. With the cameras rolling, as Doucette came into range, Gary fired at point blank at the right side of Doucette's head. He fell to the ground and died from the wound the next day. Meanwhile, the police restrained and disarmed Gary before taking him into custody. Although initially charged with second-degree murder, Gary pleaded no contest to manslaughter and was sentenced to 7 years suspended sentence, with 5 years probation and 300 hours of community service, which he completed in 1989. Because of the understandable reaction to learning of his son's abuse and the lack of risk of further murder, Gary avoided prison and has been celebrated for his role in avenging his son's abuse and proactively preventing other children from experiencing the same thing. Other parents have committed similar actions, though they are often cast in a less heroic light. In 1993,
and vigilante justice first made major headlines in our own backyard almost 30 years ago. Ellie Nessler took the law into her own hands, murdering the man accused of molesting her then 6-year-old son.
There are still plenty of people who think she did the right thing.
During a court recess in Tuolumne County back in 1993, Nessler shot the suspect 5 times, killing him. The story grabbed national headlines. Some called her a hero, holding rallies to support her. And here's how we covered it.
Nessler says she's overwhelmed by the support, but anxious about the outcome of the trial.
Yeah, I have to be nervous. You know, I'm facing 30 to life. You know, that's something to be nervous about, but I feel pretty confident.
Well, Nessler ended up taking a plea deal, serving 3.5 years. Hollywood made a movie about it called Judgment Day, the Ellie Nessler story. Nessler died of cancer in 2008 at the age of 56. By the way, her son, William, he grew up to commit a series of crimes and is now in prison for murder. I got this mugshot of him today. He's 40 years old, serving 25 years to life at Pelican Bay.
Ellie Nessler bore witness to the trial of Daniel Mark Driver, who was accused of molesting 5 boys, including Nessler's 6-year-old son. Although he had been previously convicted of child molestation, this did not prevent him from taking further victims. The 5 shots Nessler fired at the driver's head did. Her drug use played a role in her serving jail time for 3.5 years. Similarly, Marianne Bachmeyer's 7-year-old daughter was raped and murdered by a neighbor. Anna, then 7 years old, had previously played at 35-year-old Klaus Grabowski's house with his cat. However, her last visit culminated in her being raped, strangled with the tights of Grabowski's fiancée, and left packed in a box on the shore of a canal. Similarly to Doucette and Driver, Grabowski had previously been sentenced for sexually abusing 2 other girls. However, despite his conviction and chemical castration, he was still able to further abuse and ultimately murder another child. On the 3rd day of his trial, Marianne smuggled in a gun and fired 7 shots. 6 hit Grabowski, killing him instantly. Media coverage again wavered as her lifestyle and previous children she'd given up for adoption came to life. She was eventually convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 6 years in prison, of which she served 3. Although parents who avenge their children are relatively rare, reoffending sexual abusers are not. In many of the most heinous cases, there is plenty of forewarning that such events may occur, but these are rarely taken seriously. The comfort, dignity, and rights of predators are considered more important than the safety of the general public. Failures in justice can be seen in the case of Mary Vincent, who was hitchhiking and picked up by Lawrence Singleton. When Mary realized he was driving the wrong way, she attempted to escape, only to be attacked with a sledgehammer, brutally raped, her arms cut off, and shoved down a ravine. Despite his best efforts to kill her, Mary survived, climbed up the ravine, and hiked 3 miles before receiving help. The laws in California at the time did not allow the death penalty and, worse still, allowed for his early release. After serving only 8 years of his 14-year sentence, he was released on parole. Later, he moved to Florida, where he murdered a mother of 3. Before he could be put down, he died of cancer. In so very many cases, repulsive acts of sexual violence are treated with far less gravity than they deserve. As a result, not only does the initial victim not receive justice, both by not adequately punishing the perpetrator, but also in a failure to prevent further abuse, but the future of people in the community are also put at risk. The point of prison is to punish, to protect the public, and to rehabilitate criminals, if possible. In cases where the crime is centered on sadism, such as involving rape or torture, there is no justification for those actions. It is not a case of desperation or a lack of knowledge that the action in question is wrong. Why is a second chance considered more important than public safety? Why are we conditioned to think that sexual violence is incidental instead of purposefully sadistic? Perhaps it's because male violence, and sexual violence in particular, are often considered par for the course. And secondly, because there exists a class consciousness within the male class wherein there is plausible reason and space for empathy for those who commit these crimes. The ease of access to pornography, as well as the increasing sadism evident in the genre, likely only adds to the acceptance of these violent acts, even if not verbalized as such. One can find proof of this in many internet chat rooms, where men share images and videos of sexual abuse or speak about their desire to commit them.
The big thing that I learned is that it's normal for men to trade pictures and videos of their girlfriends and wives.
I am so mad at myself for not talking about this before seeing this video. This is a PSA to all women. Please listen, especially women from a small town that I used to live in not too long ago and surrounding ones. Please listen. It is so normal. It is so common for men to share photos of their girlfriends, of their wives, of random women, of their friends' wives, their friends' girlfriends. This Facebook group is not the only one, nor the first one. They have groups all over. In those small towns, they have groups. In the big cities, they have groups. They're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, I'm sure, but I know they're on Snapchat because I was told this by a friend. who caught her husband in one of the groups. I think that there were multiple that she actually found. And they're not all public where you can find them on Facebook and see like who the members are, or that there are members, or that they exist. Some of them are private. Some of them are in text messaging groups. Some of them are, again, in Snapchat. You're not going to find those unless you know someone to add you to it. Another friend not too long after also told me that she had caught her ex-boyfriend sending photos in a group that he had hidden within an app on his phone that I believe was under like a locked system, or was a calculator looking app, you know, those. To be clear, these were photos of her being sent, that she had photos and videos that were being sent that she had no idea were being taken. No idea. And these aren't just photos and videos of the wives and girlfriends in intimate situations. It's also videos being taken of friends' girlfriends, of women going into a gas station, of, they're so sneaky. And I've been told about so many men being in those groups, especially men with girlfriends, with wives, sharing their girlfriends and wives' photos and other women and trading them, sharing videos of disgusting other things they've done.
Perhaps in shady corners of the internet it is not so surprising, but even in the bare light of a Goodreads review section, you can find proof of this empathy for sexual predators. Take, for instance, Delicious Tacos, The Pussy, a book published anonymously because the content is so blatantly misogynistic, but not enough to avoid a nearly 4-star rating, or a myriad of positive reviews that applaud the relatability of passages such as, "I need to have sex soon or I will die." Specifically, I need to have unprotected sex with a woman between 15 and 27 years of age. Women, you understand nothing. Have a kid and maybe you'll know. Watch your baby get run over by a dump truck. The way you want to throw yourself under the wheels to save it is about the way I want to forcibly rabbit fuck this sorority girl on vacation. All men, always, are just walking around with this. You can't jerk it out of you. It's just raging constantly, bubbling agony in your guts, now and forever. You need pussy like breathing, and the world just waterboards you. Women, the fact that you are not brutally raped, not just every day, but several fucking times per day by gangs of engorged male baboons. The fact that your mailman just hands you the Crate and Barrel catalog and smiles instead of strangling you with his government-issue fanny pack and throat-fucking you, relishing your tears, spraying his triumphant mailman nut on the geraniums. We are doing you a huge fucking favor at all times. Or, I'm a 40-year-old man with a job and I brag about barebacking hookers in the Philippines. Never use condoms, ever. Actually, once. She insisted. After I'd been digging out her raw and sloppy in the unseasonable September heat. Relishing how my cock would stink after. You use condom, she said in her full metal jacket, shoot me accent, which would have made me come too fast, so I grudgingly put one on. It just trapped her chlamydia-laden pussy juice against my dick skin. Rough latex shredding the twat I'd already soaked in a truck tank full of my AIDS-laden pre-cum. In fairness, she was more afraid to get her pregnant. I told her I was going to. She lost her virginity at 15. Raped on a club dance floor. He didn't get all the way in before he came, but she got pregnant. The miscreant was never found. Biologically, he lived the dream. Or, like all straight men, I am powerfully sexually attracted to underage girls. Far more than to women of legal age. If you aren't, say so in the comments. I'll know everything else you say is also a lie. It's natural, but I feel like a miscreant. Any woman of legal age is already past her peak. Every cell in your body was crafted over millions of years for the sole purpose of ejaculating inside ovulating young teens. The smell of her armpits after field hockey practice makes you a beast. You'd crack, then live in terror. She's gonna talk. She's gonna write about her crush in her Lisa Frank diary that her parents dig up. She's gonna tell her friend, who tells her therapist, who tells the cops. Suddenly you're in the Chester tank. Sex offender for life, a child rapist. Never work again, live in real danger of being flayed alive by medieval peasant mobs. Neighborhood brutes beat you with tire irons. What if it was my daughter, they say, but really, they're jealous. You took that sweet pussy they can never have. And on that note, we must not forget statistics such as what was revealed by research conducted by the University of New South Wales, which found concerning patterns, including that 1 in 6 Australian men said they had had feelings for children under the age of 18, with 48% of those answering being aged over 54. 1 in 15 men questioned admitted that they would have sexual contact with a child under the age of 14 if no one found out, while 1 in 25 said the same about children under 10. If you can imagine a way where you might commit the same crime, then you place yourself in the shoes of the accused and tend to lighten the punishment. The widespread use of pornography can also be blamed, as it has long been proven that rape with acceptance, such as that women actually want it, or that no doesn't always mean no, are bolstered by porn use. A 2011 study found that with men's viewing of mainstream pornography during the last 12 months, which 83% of participants reported, such men indicated a greater behavioral intent to rape as shown by their answers to questions about their likelihood of committing rape, and likelihood of committing sexual assault if they could be assured of not being caught or punished, than men who chose not to view pornography. The result is that 83% of the sample in the study reported viewing pornography is concerning given its connection to sexual violence.
And you just have to say that the half of humanity that's female is more important than what turns you on.
There are some scary things that happen as a result of watching porn. I want to share with you the 3 most damaging ones on this list of 10, and the third one's the worst. Porn negatively impacts our relationships, not only with just trust, but our sexual intimacy. It affects his ability to perform with a real person because he's been used to watching other people have sex instead of himself. Number 2, porn can become habit forming. This is a serious problem because if you're struggling with porn and can't quit, what's going to happen to the quality of the rest of your life? And number 3, the very worst of all, is that porn changes your brain. It neurologically affects the reward system in your brain, which decreases your motivation, it decreases your mood, and it makes it so much harder for you to be successful in life because you're caught in this loop of cheap dopamine. So if you want to completely overcome porn and get this out of your life, follow me for more tools that will actually help you be successful.
But instead of fighting the problem at its source, either the men who commit sexual violence or the material which inspires it, rallying behind parents who get their revenge, however rare and unlikely, is seen as a more acceptable solution than, say, making pornography only accessible with proof of age, or handing out adequately harsh punishments for those who commit these crimes before it escalates. Instead, crimes of sexual assault are often considered misunderstandings. The perpetrators are considered far more than the victims, or worse, the crimes themselves are argued as simply being unimportant. Prison abolitionists argue that more harshly punishing these crimes is racist or continues to fuel mass incarceration. Just as defunding the police leads to higher crime, which in turn leads to more victimized women and children, arguing against harsher punishment because of a belief that every crime is poverty-funded ignores that there are people who simply like to hurt others and who are not safe to freely enter society as they please. Additionally, these claims ignore that while drug incarcerations may be unnecessarily high, when factoring in unreported rapes, only about 6% of rapists ever serve a day in jail. Claims that recidivism is low ignores the difficulty in accessing good data on the topic, as the primary manner of measurement is through recording rearrests, reconvictions, or reincarcerations, which ignores the possibility of offenses that were not caught or prosecuted and tends to ignore that the longer they are in the community, the greater the chances they will reoffend. And what it all comes down to, truthfully, is who is valued most? Those who have committed violent sexual acts for their own pleasure, or the safety of the general public, and often the most vulnerable of them, children. The days of chemical castration or surgical castration and death penalties are gone, and certainly even the worst of humanity is owed a minimum of dignity. But instead of wasting time and money on attempting to rehabilitate, we should instead focus on long-term solutions to violent offenders, such as isolated but open-air prisons, and on maintaining the safety and comfort of the non-offending majority. This, dear viewers, is where we part. I am kind of a fan of true crime. I'm very specific on what I'll watch, but I find that oftentimes you'll see there was a pattern of behavior, and if the first offense was taken seriously, then further offenses never could have occurred. But instead of going ahead and punishing someone harshly for, say, groping a classmate, actually giving them a real punishment, instead we often let it go, and then later on they do something worse, and then everyone goes, how could this have happened? Which I have talked about in the past, but it continues to annoy me so much because do you know who matters more than the people who commit awful crimes? Everyone else. And I don't understand why we continue to place the dignity and rights and potential for becoming a better person over the real and proven risk to people in the community who will be around those men. Anyhow, as you can probably hear, the rain is picked up, so if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.